All right, let's go ahead and jump right in. We've got Queen's Gambit declined. D4, D5, C4, E6. The Queen's Gambit decline is one of the oldest 1d4 openings and has a long history. As long ago as the 19th century, when e4 was still by far the most popular move, d5, followed by 2c4 and then e6, was the accepted reply to the far less respected 1d4. With the rise of positional chess, attention shifted heavily to d4, and the Queen's Gambit declined automatically became the most important of all openings. In the 1927 match for the World Championship between Alekhine and Capablanca, for instance, the Queen's Gambit decline was played in 32 of the 34 games, and 1e4 only once. No doubt, as a reaction to this one-sidedness, a much broader range of openings was developed after this, but the Queen's Gambit decline has always remained important, simply because it is regarded as an intrinsically sound and trustworthy way of playing. Black prepares to recapture on d5 with his e-pawn, if necessary, while at the same time opening a diagonal for the king's bishop. He thus holds his ground in the center and sets up a very natural plan of development for his pieces. White now has two plausible moves. We have knight c3 and knight f3. The main significance of knight f3, lies in preparing the Catalan opening, which arises after knight f3, which is after 3, knight f6. Let's go back. So knight f3, knight f6, and g3. Yep, there it is. Queen's Gambit declined, the Catalan opening. And will be dealt with at the end of this chapter. All right, so let's go back to knight c3. So it says two possible moves, knight c3, knight f3. The main significance of knight f3 lies in preparing the Catalan, which rises after typically knight f6 and then g3. Okay, got it. Knight c3. This is the most usual move, which brings us to our first major parting of the ways. With c5, Black claims an equal share of the center at once. This is called the Tarrasch defense. Yep, this was played against me and surprised me at the Coral Springs Chess Club in South Florida. And I don't remember the result of the game. I'll have to look at it later. But I just remember it surprising me. I was studying openings and studied the Queen's Gambit decline at the time. And the Tarrasch, I guess I didn't get to. And I was out of opening book, on move 3 here. And I had to play it out. He can also play c6. Let's go back here and look at c6. So this is called the Queen's Gambit declined semi-Slav defense accelerated move order. And it says this move is based on a very clever idea and is much more aggressive than it looks. This is the note boom or Abraham's variation. Then we have the simple developing moves. Okay. We have knight f6. What do we got here? Yep, just called Queen's Gambit decline. Queen's Knight variation, 3 knight f6. And bishop e7, which is the Queen's Gambit declined Charuisic variation. Charuisic variation. It is with either of these that the Queen's Gambit declined proper is reached. Finally, the move bishop b4. Bishop b4 is Queen's Gambit declined, Queen's Knight variation. Finally, the move bishop 3, bishop b4 has been played on and off, especially in the 1990s. This is an attempt to combine two different openings. The Queen's Gambit declined and the Nimzo Indian defense. Yeah, we saw that. Black keeps all options open to go either way, depending on white's reply. A strategy that may well unsettle an opponent with a narrow opening repertoire. Well, that's interesting. So bishop b4 keeps it flexible, and depending on how white moves, black can choose to stay as a Queen's Gambit declined opening, or to kind of go to a Nimzo Indian defense with knight to f6. Interesting. I like those psychological kind of transpositions and why that happens. And it says, yeah, a strategy that may well unsettle an opponent with a narrow opening repertoire. Theory has not yet managed to get a firm grip on this line, but one of white's best options seems to be 4a3. And it looks like it's the fourth most popular move here. Queen's Gambit decline, Queen's Knight variation. Okay, a3. By forcing his opponent's hand, white attempts to turn the situation around and use whatever black plays after, for example, bishop takes a knight on c3 check, and then b takes c3, to achieve a favorable variation of the Nimzo Indian. Interesting. So here there's two moves. Yes, bishop takes or bishop to e7. And this will be the variation here. Knight f6, could be c5. Okay.